On a humid August morning in 1855, a boy stood on an auction block in Savannah, Georgia, his pale skin and colorless eyes marking him as cursed in the eyes of the crowd. No one bid. The price dropped from $20 to $5. Finally, Margaret Denore, a wealthy widow owning 4,000 acres outside the city, raised her fan, paying $12 out of Christian charity. The crowd applauded her generosity, unaware she had been searching for a child like this for 3 years. Nor could they imagine that 73 people would vanish on her plantation over the next 14 years. Their fates recorded in ledgers allegedly burned by authorities in 1861. One ledger survived, hidden in a foundation wall, discovered during highway construction in 1959. It detailed measurements, bloodline charts, and a chilling purification project. Before we dive into what happened to that albino boy in Margaret's hidden compound, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to uncover more buried mysteries. Comment below with your city or state. We'd love to know where you were hearing these dark tales. Now let's return to that sweltering Savannah afternoon when Margaret's terrible vision took shape. Margaret Denore, 47, was a formidable figure, her size signaling wealth in 1855 Georgia. Widowed for 13 years, she ran Belmont Plantation with an iron will, unnerving overseers and neighbors alike. Her true distinction was her library, over 300 books on natural philosophy, anatomy, and breeding techniques. The boy, about 11, was brought to the block, his translucent skin and pinkish-gray eyes silencing the crowd. Albinism carried heavy superstition. Many believed such children brought bad luck or saw ghosts. The auctioneer, Cyrus Peaton, opened bidding at $20. No hands rose. At $5, Margaret bid, her serene expression masking cold calculation. "I'll pay $12, she announced, earning praise for her charity. But as the boy, named Thomas, was led to her carriage, she studied him like a specimen, subject 0 for her purification project. In the carriage, Margaret wrote meticulous notes on Thomas's appearance, ignoring him. Her driver, Augustus, tense and silent, knew Belmont's dark reputation. People vanished there, not escaped, but gone. The carriage reached a hidden compound, a mile from the main house, built with materials from multiple states to avoid suspicion. Workers who constructed it were sold off, ensuring silence. Inside, clean pine floors and whitewashed walls contrasted with its sinister purpose. Margaret assigned Thomas a room with a bed, table, and shelf. "You'll be fed, clothed, and sheltered," she said coldly. "In return, you'll cooperate with examinations and measurements. You'll learn to read and write. Ask no questions beyond your lessons. Obey, and you'll be treated well. Disobey, and punishment will be severe." Thomas nodded, trembling, as she locked the door. Margaret's journal entry that night read, August 17th, 1855. Subject 0 acquired. Pure albinism evident. Begin measurements tomorrow. He is the foundation of the purification project. To her, Thomas was not human, but a key to unlocking heredity's secrets. His days followed a rigid schedule. Morning measurements, breakfast calculated for growth and education. A tutor, Christopher Vance, taught him reading, writing, and arithmetic, unaware of Margaret's broader experiment. Thomas excelled, reading complex texts within a year. Margaret assigned him books on anatomy and heredity, explaining her theories. Races represented developmental stages, and selective breeding could improve traits like intelligence. Thomas listened silently, knowing interruptions brought rebuke. The compound held about 25 people kept in isolation. Margaret acquired them for specific traits, tracking measurements and arranging pairings to study heredity. Her records noted high infant mortality and disappearances. Witnesses later described a hidden cemetery with numbered stakes and a basement with preserved specimens, some disturbingly human. Thomas, confined to his room and the schoolroom, knew little of this. At 14, Margaret's lessons grew explicit, detailing reproductive biology and his role in her experiment. Your albinism is a pure recessive trait, she told him. Paired correctly, your offspring will reveal hereditary mechanisms. The implication filled him with dread, but escape was impossible in 1857 Georgia. In spring 1858, Thomas recovered from pneumonia, and Augustus began speaking to him briefly during supply deliveries. One day he whispered, "You're smarter than most. You've read her books. Maybe you can figure something she can't." The words sparked hope. Thomas realized Margaret's education could be a weapon. By autumn 1858, she announced that at 15, he'd begin the breeding phase with selected women. He nodded, hiding his resolve to resist through knowledge. In October 1858, Dr. Harrison Pembroke, a Charleston physician fascinated by heredity, visited Belmont. Margaret shared her theories and showed him her records and specimens. Pembroke was enthralled, though uneasy about the infant mortality rate. She introduced Thomas, explaining his role. Pembroke examined him, noting his education with surprise. "You intend to use him as a stud?" he asked. Margaret confirmed, planning pairings within 6 months. Pembroke, ambition overriding morality, agreed to collaborate, visiting monthly to document the breeding phase. In November 1858, Margaret began the experiment. She selected 3 women: Eliza, 19, traumatized from losing a child; Sarah, 18, defiant; and Hannah, 21, submissive. Eliza was first, brought to Thomas's room. Both were terrified, trapped by Margaret's power. What happened was degrading, a horror left undescribed. Pembroke's examinations afterward dehumanized them further. Sarah resisted, enduring 6 days of starvation in isolation before breaking. Hannah complied without protest, her spirit long crushed. Only Eliza conceived, her pregnancy monitored obsessively. In May 1859, she gave birth to a healthy girl with no albinism, disappointing Margaret. She planned to breed the child back to Thomas at maturity. Eliza, overhearing this, made a desperate choice. On the 6th night after birth, her daughter stopped breathing. Both were found dead the next morning, their graves marked only by stakes. Margaret E.'s journal noted the infant's death as unknown cause, and Eliza as unreliable. The compound grew quiet, the balance broken. In July 1859, Dr. Samuel Hargrave and his assistant Robert Chen visited Belmont. Chen, horrified by Margaret's methods, confronted her. "This is brutality, not research." Margaret dismissed him, but Chen vowed to act. He wrote to medical societies and newspapers describing the forced breeding and Thomas's plight. In 1859, Georgia, his claims were ignored. Undeterred, Chen returned to Savannah, gathering testimonies from locals. Augustus, breaking his silence, met Chen in January 1860, providing details and a map to the compound. Chen presented this to Sheriff William Pritchard, who, with a court order, searched Belmont on January 23, 1860. They found 8 malnourished residents, Pembroke's notes, and preserved infant specimens. Thomas, articulate and educated, confirmed the horrors. Margaret was placed under house arrest, but her lawyers argued her actions were legal under Georgia law. Pembroke's testimony in February 1860, admitting his role and describing the brutality, strengthened the case. But in March, Chen and Pritchard uncovered 47 graves in the forest, some showing signs of violence. Hannah's testimony about Margaret administering poison and striking a woman sealed her fate, though her status as an enslaved woman weakened its legal weight. The Civil War's outbreak in April 1861 halted the case. Margaret sold Belmont, dismantled the compound, and fled to Alabama, vanishing after 1863. Thomas was housed with a Quaker family who treated him kindly. Freed in 1863, he learned carpentry, married, and raised 3 healthy children, dying in 1902. Chen became a public health advocate, haunted by Belmont, and died in 1892. Pembroke, consumed by guilt, died by suicide in 1867. Augustus lived until 1879, a quiet, haunted man. Hannah died in 1876, her gravestone reading, She survived what should have killed her.